Under a heavy sky where clouds seemed to weigh down the earth, two men faced each other. The silence was broken only by the wind stirring the tall grass and the distant cry of a crow. The first, young and short of breath, gripped his saber with a feverish tightness. His eyes betrayed hesitation. He wanted to appear strong, but his body trembled in spite of himself, as if his soul were already seeking an escape. The second advanced slowly, almost nonchalantly. His gaze was fixed, imperturbable like a lake at sunrise. His hand did not tremble. His steps echoed in the silence like the beat of an inner drum. He was no taller, no more robust, but something emanated from him, an invisible strength, an unshakable conviction. Miyamoto Musashi wrote it in his book of 5 Rings. The battle is not won by the weapon, but by the mind that wields it. Here, on this field where the dust already smelled of death, the truth of these words became clear. For the blade is but an extension of the soul. In the hands of the hesitant man, it was but a piece of steel. In the hands of one whose spirit was a fortress, it became will incarnate. The external struggle is not just a battle of steel against steel. It is a demonstration of the mastery one has over oneself and over the fear that inhabits every human being when faced with the unknown. In the decisive moment, muscles do not decide, the size of the weapon does not decide. It is the clarity of the mind that decides. The man who trembles is already defeated, because he has offered his adversary the greatest of weaknesses, the absence of inner control. Today you may not be walking onto a battlefield where sabers clash, but the war continues, simply masked by other forms. It takes place in business, in the corridors of power, in classrooms, in the intimate choices you make each morning when you open your eyes. When you enter into a negotiation, into a personal conflict, in a moment when you must decide your future, are you not that warrior standing in front of another? The fear of losing, doubt, social pressure, these are the invisible blades that seek to strike you down. Imagine an invisible arena. Your daily trials take place there. A competition for a position, a risky choice that could change your future, a confrontation with someone who questions your honor or your truth. The world may no longer have bloody duels, but it still has duels of will. He who wavers in his mind always falls, even if no one sees his fall. A samurai proverb said, "He who fears death will already lose his life." This harsh and cutting maxim doesn't just speak of the physical end, but of those little inner deaths you experience every time you give up acting out of fear. Every hesitation before your adversary is a wound. Every step back is an invisible cut that weakens your soul. The calm man on the battlefield wasn't born with this mastery. He had faced 1,000 battles before this one. Battles against his weaknesses, against his nights of anguish, against the despair of failure. This calm wasn't natural. It was forged by years of discipline and fall, by moments when he had almost died but had chosen to learn. The trembling warrior, however, had not yet faced fear often enough to tame it. And in this duel, this invisible difference would decide everything. You too carry this duel within you. When you find yourself facing a challenge, do you feel your breath become short, your hands sweat, your heart beat faster? This is your battlefield. This is where it is decided whether you are the man who trembles or the one who advances. Will you tremble, letting your invisible enemy, fear, doubt, the judgment of others, decide your destiny? Or will you advance with the precision and serenity of one who knows that his victory is already decided before the first move? Sun Tzu said, "He who knows himself and his enemy has nothing to fear from 100 battles." But if you do not know yourself, you will be defeated before the test even begins. The first step in the external fight is not to raise your weapon, but to understand that you are being watched, not by your opponent alone, but by your own mind. So I ask you, what would you do if your honor depended on a single choice? If, in this moment, your entire dignity rested on how you advance or retreat? Do you remain a prisoner of fear, or do you forge that impassive aura that makes your opponent tremble before your sword even moves? The real enemy doesn't wear armor. He doesn't advance, striking his sword against the ground to intimidate you. He has no face, no battle cry. The real enemy lives within you. He takes the form of a silent voice, sometimes gentle, sometimes commanding, whispering deep within your mind, "You're not strong enough. You're not cut out for this. You can put it off until tomorrow. No one will see if you give up." This voice doesn't attack head-on, it creeps in, it softens you from within. It is much more dangerous than an armed adversary because sometimes you believe it and worse still, you mistake it for yourself. Yamamoto Tsunetomo, Don Luhagakure, stated, "The way of the samurai is death." One might think he was talking about dying by the sword, but his message is more subtle, more radical. It is about the death of the ego, the death of illusions, the death of that part of you that clings to ease and fear. Dying to yourself means renouncing everything that weakens your spirit in order to be reborn with an indestructible will. It is a symbolic death, an inner death, but every day it must be lived anew. Every morning you wake up facing an invisible duel. No one sees it, no one applauds it. It's you versus you. This duel is not fought with a sword, but with an even sharper weapon, your discipline. Your saber is not made of steel but of will. Every decision is a cut. When you refuse the temptation of laziness, you strike. When you choose to act despite fear, you strike. When you remain faithful to your principles when it would be easier to betray them, you strike again. The inner struggle leaves no visible scars, but its wounds are etched in your soul, and its victories sculpt your character. Musashi himself insisted, "Know 1,000 things by knowing just one." In your mind, this truth takes root. If you can tame just one of your weaknesses, you will learn to conquer them all. For the enemy within is not a single monster, but a hydra with 1,000 heads. Fear, laziness, pride, doubt, anger, the desire for recognition. Each one seeks to divert you from your path. But like the hydra, each time you refuse to give in, you strengthen your spirit, until it becomes a sharp sword that nothing can break. Think about the times you failed. Was it really the outside world that brought you down? Or was it your mind that betrayed you even before the fight? Did the fear of daring paralyze you? Did the doubt of failure immobilize you? Did wounded pride push you to choices that destroyed your inner peace? The enemy within doesn't strike just once. It strikes every day with the patience of an invisible assassin. The samurai knew that death could come at any moment. That's why they constantly prepared for it, not out of a morbid spirit, but to free themselves from fear. They symbolically buried their ego, to leave room only for the clarity of action. And you, are you ready for this inner death? To kill the voice within you that wants you to give up? Are you capable of standing every morning like a warrior, ready to strike not at your neighbor but at your own illusions? Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "The man who has triumphed over himself can never be defeated again." This victory is the most difficult. Outer battles require courage, but inner battles demand constant vigilance, because the enemy knows every one of your weak points. He knows your hunger, your pride, your need for comfort. He doesn't attack your armor but the cracks in your heart. Every choice you make is a blade rising. When you refuse to give in to the easy way, you cut through chaos. When you remain true to your honor in solitude, you force your invisible adversary back. But beware, this enemy never truly dies. He returns every day with a different voice, a different mask. This is why the samurai had to symbolically die every morning, be reborn every evening, and face his inner demon again and again. So I ask you, how many times have you backed down from yourself? How many times have you chosen flight over the inner duel? And even more, are you ready finally to raise your sword of will against that voice that wants to chain you? Have you already defeated the enemy that hides in your own mind? In the realm of war, whether physical or symbolic, every thoughtless move is an invitation to defeat. Sun Tzu states this with implacable clarity: "Victory belongs to those who wait for the right moment." These words don't just apply to the battlefields of yesteryear, they resonate in every aspect of your life today. Every decision, every interaction, every strategic action you take is a piece on the invisible chessboard of your existence. Impatience is a subtle poison. It pushes you to act before preparation is complete, it encourages you to attack without understanding the terrain, it causes you to lose track of a plan that only calm and analysis can reveal. The disciplined warrior knows that impulse is the enemy of control. He understands that momentum without control is a blade turned against oneself. This is where the art of mental strategy comes in. Miyamoto Musashi, in his book of 5 Rings, taught to see what cannot be seen. Superficial observation is never enough. Anticipating the unpredictable, understanding what lies behind the opponent's actions, perceiving intentions before they become obvious, that is the key. In your daily life, this means recognizing your own weaknesses before they assail you, anticipating moments when temptation might arise, preparing your mind to resist fatigue, distraction, anger. Mental strategy is a complex dance between patience and action. It requires you to calculate every move, weigh every risk, and consider the long-term consequences before reacting. It's not paralysis by fear, but a conscious mastery of timing. Waiting for the right moment to strike with precision requires an intimate knowledge of yourself and your environment. How many opportunities are wasted because we act hastily, without considering all the variables? How many conflicts turn into failures because we confuse agitation with initiative? Musashi emphasized the importance of a holistic view, reading the terrain and your opponent's intentions. This isn't limited to the battlefield. In the modern world, your opponents can be people, systems, habits, or even your own limitations. Knowing how to discern the strengths and weaknesses around you is an art. Observing without judgment, analyzing without emotion, anticipating without arrogance. This is what transforms tactics into strategy, and strategy into lasting victory. Mental strategy also includes flexibility. A rigid plan is a trap. The true strategist knows how to adapt his methods according to circumstances. It's not just about anticipating what might happen, but about preparing your mind to act in the face of the unexpected. This is where discipline and lucidity meet. When chaos arises, the prepared warrior remains calm and transforms disorder into opportunity. Every interruption, every partial failure becomes a learning ground, a pivot point for readjusting one's tactics. Strategic calculation should not be confused with inaction. Inaction often arises from fear, doubt, or the desire for absolute control. True mental strategy requires making bold decisions, but only after examining all angles. Sun Tzu states, "Know your enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles you will never be in danger." Knowing yourself involves understanding your limitations, your reactions to pressure, and the biases that can cloud your judgment. Knowing the enemy isn't simply observing their behavior. It's anticipating their moves, understanding their logic, and predicting their reactions before they even articulate them. In your daily life, mental strategy manifests itself in small gestures as well as in big decisions. Planning your day with discipline, anticipating obstacles before they appear, managing your time rigorously, calibrating your words and actions to produce maximum impact with minimal wasted effort. These are all acts of mental strategy. Each thoughtful choice is an invisible strike, a step forward on your personal chessboard. Each controlled retreat is a tactical repositioning, a way to strengthen your position for a future decisive move. Finally, mental strategy is a school of patience and humility. It teaches that lasting victory does not belong to the most impulsive, nor to the fastest, but to those who understand the dynamics of the situation, who read the invisible forces and who know how to wait for the right moment to act. Self-control, lucidity, the ability to analyze, to foresee, to anticipate, make you not only a participant in the world, but a strategist of your own existence. So ask yourself, are you the one who moves forward blindly, carried away by the momentum of the moment and the apparent urgency, or are you the one who waits for the right moment, ready to strike with relentless precision, capable of transforming every situation into an opportunity, capable of defeating not only your adversaries, but also the uncertainty and chaos that inhabit the world in your mind? Legendary warriors aren't born overnight. They don't emerge from the dust of a battlefield like impromptu heroes. Every master samurai, every historical strategist, every philosopher of self-control has been shaped by time, by repetition, and by a silent commitment that no one saw. Musashi, after winning 100 battles, never rested. Every day he returned to his training, polished his blade, tested his techniques, refined his reflexes. Victory was neither an excuse nor an end for him. It was a tool to push himself further, to sharpen not only his sword but his mind. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Discipline is freedom." He wasn't just talking about rules imposed by a master or society, but about the discipline one imposes on oneself. True freedom is not the absence of constraints. It is the ability to not be a prisoner of one's desires, impulses, or weaknesses. The samurai who rises before dawn to meditate, rehearse his movements, and polish his sword knows this freedom. Every gesture, every habit becomes an act of power over himself, a way of dominating the moment before the moment dominates him. Today, in our modern world, battlefields are no longer filled with shouts and steel, but with equally demanding tests. Your mind is your blade. Your daily life is your training ground. Getting up early, meditating, organizing your time, working without distraction, refusing to take the easy way out. These are the invisible gestures that build a strong character and a sharp mind. No one will see these efforts. Few will care. Yet, it is these solitary moments, these small, repeated disciplines, that make the difference between someone who remains average and someone who becomes extraordinary. The samurai knew that every action repeated with intention, even the most mundane, could become second nature. Polishing one's blade didn't just make it shine. It was a ritual to sharpen patience, concentration, and perseverance. Likewise, every daily task, when performed with discipline, forges your spirit. Today's silent preparation becomes tomorrow's precise and controlled reaction. Invisible training produces visible results, but only when the pressure is on, when the moment of truth presents itself. Consider the consistency required to become a master in any field. The scholar who reads and rereads ancient texts, the musician who repeats the same scales, the athlete who repeats the same movements thousands of times. All understand one essential truth. Real progress is not spectacular, it is silent. It is the sum of gestures that no one sees but that are felt in the impact they produce. The samurai knows that mastery is not revealed in a single moment of glory, but in thousands of silent, repeated, conscious moments. The sword, for the warrior, is a symbol. It requires constant maintenance. A neglected sword oxidizes, corrodes, and becomes ineffective. Your mind works the same way. If you ignore discipline, if you choose the easy way out, if you put off invisible efforts, your potential is dulled. You lose the sharpness needed to seize opportunities, to act with speed and precision when the decisive moment arrives. Invisible work is the true secret weapon of success. Imagine your day as an invisible dojo. Every task, every action, even the simplest, becomes a kata, a movement rehearsed to perfection. Getting up on time, meditating, working without distraction, observing your thoughts, resisting impulses. All these gestures become the swings of your mental saber. And little by little, without anyone noticing, your mind sharpens. The discipline you build in silence creates a strength that no one can measure but that everyone feels when it manifests. Musashi and other masters knew that repetition forges the soul as much as the body. Every day, every gesture, however monotonous, must be performed with precision, with intention. The samurai repeated until his actions became automatic, until the gesture was perfect before thought even intervened. Daily discipline is not a burden. It is the way potential becomes reality, the way the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. So, look in the mirror of your own habits. What actions do you repeat every day? How many of them actually polish your mind? Are you willing to repeat gestures that no one sees over and over again, until they become second nature, until your mind is honed like a blade ready to cut through indecision and weakness? Every silent victory, every invisible effort, every daily ritual becomes the foundation of your strength. And like the samurai who polished his sword before sunrise, you too prepare your mind, hone your skills, and arm yourself against future challenges, in the calm and consistency of a discipline that no one notices, but that everyone feels when you act with precision and power. Beyond the blade, beyond the battles, there is the way. Bushido was not only a martial discipline, but a silent prayer, a union between man and the invisible. When you know the way in the mountains, you will also know the way in life, said a samurai proverb. The ultimate discipline is not to impose your will on the world, but to harmonize it with the invisible order that governs all things. The sword becomes a meditation, the breath becomes a prayer, every gesture becomes an offering. So ask yourself, are you just a fighter seeking victory? Or a spirit walking the path, ready to die, but above all ready to live with unwavering honor?